Hello and welcome to another episode of News9 Plus Decodes. 3 days ago, even as the Modi government was being sworn in for the third successive term, India received a deadly message, an unprecedented attack on a bus full of pilgrims in Riyasi in Jammu and Kashmir. Since then, there has been a firefight in Doda and another in Kathau, Jammu. With us, we have the editor, News9 Plus, Mr. Sandeep Onitan. Sandeep, behind us is an image of the materials, that were left behind by the attackers. What does this image tell you about the aims and objectives of these people?
Well, Deepak, dead men tell no tales, but the stuff that they carry, the equipment they carry, certainly speak a lot. And what we are seeing here is basically the arms and ammunition that were recovered from the dead terrorists at Kathau. And it's very interesting because this exactly tells you the kind of mission that they had come for, which is to inflict a number of casualties. They were, of course, self-contained, and I'm going to take you through some of the equipment that we have with us here. This is the M4 assault rifle. It's a US-made assault rifle. It's made by the Colt company, and this is, of course, from those vast stocks of American assault rifles that were left behind in Afghanistan when the US and NATO forces retreated. And these rifles have found their way into Taliban first, the Taliban who've been using them, and then later into Pakistan, where a number of these terrorist groups like the LET and Jaish have started using them in Kashmir. It's interesting, this is a new phenomenon that we have started seeing these American-made assault rifles being used by terrorists in J&K. This is a thermal sight, very interesting. This thermal sight is something that allows this weapon to be used even at night. It's a thermal sight is something that basically looks at the body temperatures of people, the heat signatures, exactly. If you've seen the movie Predator, that's exactly a thermal image. You can make out a person in pitch darkness and you can target them and shoot them. So these are deadly weapons. These are used by snipers in Kashmir. There have been a number of such attacks using these kind of M4 assault rifles armed with, fitted with thermal sights. These are, of course, utility knives. And what you see here is one of the most ubiquitous weapons in the terrorism of the last 3 decades. This is a Type 56 assault rifle. It's Chinese made, and what you see here is the stock. It's a stock that folds under the barrel, and of course the magazine is detached. And you see over here a lot of the other equipment that the militants were carrying with them, because Deepak, when these militants, this particular small teams that were infiltrated across the line of control and across the international border, they have to be self-sufficient. So they have to carry a lot of stuff when they travel. They're living in the upper reaches, in the jungles, in the forests, in the woods, and they have to carry a lot of equipment with them so that they're self-contained. So it's like a self-contained unit. This is possibly a battery charger, and these batteries are the ones that are used to power their communication sets, their GPS radios, sets, the GPS sets. Batteries are really important. So you would possibly see, smaller cells as well. You can't see them here, but you see a lot of wires. Yeah. You can see a lot of wires here. So obviously these guys are completely dependent on radio sets. This image tells you that they're completely dependent on radio sets to communicate with base for their orders. And these radio sets are typically encrypted, so you can't intercept them. And they are also, frequency hopping radios. They have some very, very advanced communication gear, encrypted radios like I mentioned, and frequency hopping radio sets are another. And what you see here is possibly a lot of food stuff, high energy rations, because they're going to survive on their own, self-contained unit. They need to fend for themselves. So typically what militants in Kashmir have been carrying are, rations like badams and, badam, pista, chocolates, high calorie, compact foods which they can easily slip into their backpack and keep with them for days. So this unit, this self-contained unit would have been operating for a couple of weeks on their own. They would also have to carry a lot of water. So typically any militant would have to carry something like 8 to 10 kgs of equipment on them. So if you see the next slide, now this is very interesting, Deepak. This is the hand grenades, and a couple of empty magazines. This is of course the M4 magazine. It's a Stanag magazine. It's empty, of course. Each magazine fits into the M4 assault rifle, the American assault rifle. It's got about 30 rounds per clip, and those are of course the Type 56 AK-47 type assault rifle. Those are the magazines from that. These are bullets from the Type 56. That's the M43 round, and these are the 5.56 into 43 ammunition for the M4. Okay. So what typically the militants carry with them is they have a weapon, of course, an assault rifle. They have a magazine, and they have a lot of loose, ammunition, loose cartridges. Ammunition cartridges which they carry in bags. They have a few preloaded clips, 3 or 4 of these clips. So each assault rifle would have at least 3 or 4 spare clips, and they would have a lot of loose ammunition. So they just keep filling up those clips when they run out. Now this is the most interesting exhibit according to me. This is a Chinese defensive hand grenade. It's the 86P hand grenade. Now a lot of people don't know this, but hand grenades have 2 types. Okay. They have offensive grenades and they have defensive grenades. So this 86P is a grenade that has literally surfaced all over the country throughout over the last 3 decades. We've been seeing it in Mumbai. It was used by the Mumbai attackers in 26/11 as well. Okay. So the Mumbai 26/11 attackers came with 2 types of hand grenades, the Argus, the Austrian hand grenades, and these 86P defensive hand grenades. I'll explain what the concept of a defensive hand grenade is. Now a defensive hand grenade is something that has a lot of shrapnel packed into it. Now this one, for instance, it's got a plastic body. It's very lightweight. It weighs a couple of grams, and it's got about 1600 ball bearings, steel ball bearings that are wrapped around a small explosive charge. So what happens is that the user would, of course, pull the pin out of the grenade. You've seen them in movies, and then toss it at whoever he wants to attack. And this is meant to explode in about 4 seconds. It's got a 4-second delay fuse, and when it explodes, it kills everybody around a 50-meter radius. Sorry, not a 50-meter radius. It kills everybody around a 10-meter radius. It's lethal. So what happens is that each of these ball bearings, each one becomes like a bullet. There are 1600 of them, and they explode, and they basically kill and maim anyone around.
Any direction, rather.
It's 360 degrees. It explodes in all directions, and a defensive grenade is typically something that you would throw if you were in undercover yourself. You would have to take cover and then throw it. That's why it's called a defensive grenade. Whereas an offensive grenade is something that wouldn't have a lot of shrapnel in it. It would just have the explosive charge in it. It would basically maim and kill with the force of the blast itself. Because the reason being, when you're attacking, you're in the offensive mode. You don't want to injure your comrades who are around you. So if you start throwing defensive grenades when you're in the attack mode, you could end up either injuring yourself or people around you. Right. And this is something that you throw when you're in the attack mode, which is when you're open, you're exposed. Now this is something that you would throw when you were in cover yourself. You're hiding inside a bunker or a dhok or in a room, and then you throw it out at the enemy that's advancing towards you. So like I said, this is something that has surfaced in terror attacks across the country, of course in Jammu and Kashmir, but we've seen them in other parts of India as well, wherever there have been these so-called Fidain attacks, like I said in 26/11, these have surfaced over there. So it's a literal United Nations of technology that we are seeing over here. You're seeing American assault rifles, Chinese assault rifles, Chinese hand grenades, and the ammunition. We don't have a chance to look at these factory head stamps. If someone could show me a close-up of these head stamps, I could possibly even tell you which ordnance factory, which ammunition factory manufactured these, because these rounds aren't the kind that small militants outfits would be able to craft in their backyard, for instance.
These are obviously sourced from...
These are sourced from factories, they're sourced from ordnance factories, there are companies that are behind them, they're making them, they're transporting them, supplying them, and these grenades as well. This is not the kind of stuff that you could make in, say, Daradam Khel or in some small factory there. These are all made in China, and they're shipped in large numbers, and in this case used to maim, kill security forces, civilians, exactly the kind of mission profile that these terrorists had when they crossed the border.
There's one more thing that's been overlooked largely. Kathau is not near the line of control. In fact, it is across the international border.
Right.
This in itself is unprecedented. I mean, you rarely had attacks across the international border. How do you see these people? How did they end up there? Or is there another message that we're looking at?
Well, it's hard to tell how they got there. It's quite possible that they've used one of those tunnels under the international boundary. They've been digging these tunnels. Pakistan has been digging these tunnels for several years. In fact, the attack, the suicide attack in 2019 was also carried out by someone who infiltrated through these terror tunnels. The Pulwama suicide attack I'm referring to, and there are other ways of getting in through the international borders, the Punjab border, for instance. There could be multiple areas of infiltration, and they've selected these regions which have typically not seen the kind of militant activity that you have in the last couple of years. So there's possibly a sense of complacency that's settled in, and Jammu has been largely peaceful in the last couple of years. So the aim, the objective of these attacks is to say that all's not well in Jammu and Kashmir. This is not the time for elections.